Hello friends, and welcome to our channel, where we delve into the most shocking and captivating topics from all around the world. Today, we are taking a journey to the Caucasus region, a land rich in traditions and customs that often seem mysterious and even strict to outsiders. But what is the true nature behind these customs? Why can even the slightest hint of sexuality or an innocent gesture lead to scandal? In this video, I will tell you about 40 taboos that exist on the Caucasus, which may surprise, shock, or even cause you to view relationships in a completely different light. How does life unfold under the constant watchfulness of family and society in this region? Why are some behaviors that we consider normal here regarded as unacceptable there? It promises to be truly fascinating, and some parts will be very candid. If you're eager to learn which rules must never be broken to avoid becoming an outcast, then make yourselves comfortable because we are about to begin. On the Caucasus, displays of affection in public, such as kisses, hugs, or even simple hand-holding, are considered taboo. This prohibition is deeply rooted in centuries-old traditions and a profound respect for family values. Here, feelings between a man and a woman are seen as something intensely personal, meant to remain behind closed doors. Such behavior in public is perceived as a sign of disrespect towards elders, cultural norms, and religious principles. When someone openly shows their emotions, it often invites criticism from others. Even a seemingly innocent gesture of love can be viewed as a challenge to societal morality. People might start whispering, spreading rumors, and this can lead to a real catastrophe for the individual's reputation, and not just theirs, but that of their entire family. These strict rules are formed from childhood. Children observe how adults behave with restraint and come to understand that overt displays of affection are shameful or even disgraceful. Family honor is of utmost importance here, meaning any behavior that could be interpreted as frivolous or careless might result in serious consequences. What makes it even more intriguing is that for many residents of the Caucasus, these prohibitions have become so ingrained that they no longer realize that elsewhere in the world, such restrictions are considered normal or even non-existent. Nevertheless, if you decide to test your luck and violate these taboos, be prepared for disapproving looks, and perhaps even overt comments. Here, the freedom to express feelings ends where tradition begins. In Caucasian society, women are not permitted to initiate romantic gestures, particularly when it comes to proposing marriage or taking the first step toward a relationship. Such actions are viewed as a serious breach of traditional values, where the man is expected to take the lead. If a woman openly shows her interest or makes the first move, society may interpret this as a sign of desperation or poor upbringing. It is widely believed that a woman who actively demonstrates her interest risks losing her mysterious allure and dignity. Traditionally, men are responsible for paying attention, making the first move, and proposing marriage. Women, on the other hand, are expected to be modest, preserve their dignity, and wait patiently until the man initiates the relationship. If a woman violates this role and expresses her feelings first, it can be perceived as a sign of hopelessness or lack of proper upbringing. This strict gender dynamic is deeply embedded in the culture. A woman's active interest might be seen as inappropriate or even shameful, undermining her social standing and reputation. Overall, these customs and taboos are not merely social rules but are woven into the very fabric of life here, dictating behavior from a young age and shaping the community's collective identity. Understanding these boundaries provides a window into the values and worldview of the people of the Caucasus, revealing a society that values tradition, honor, and social harmony above all else. Na Caucasus, GD traditii I kulturnie senosti gluboko ukorenalis v povsedenevnoj zizni, skromnost citatsa odnoj is vaznesi dobrodatelej, kotori zadiz osobeno sanatsa I uvazoutsa. V obsetsve. GD kazdo destvi I kazdo slovo satelno osinovatsa s tatski zarenia sobludinia ustovzisa porodkov, proavleni skromnosti avlatsa ne prosto lichnij dobrodetelu, a vaznesim aspektom sorinania samejnoj sesti I socialnoj reputaci. Krom togo, sleduet usitivat, ctio taki normi mogat visavat opredeleno nudobstvo u musin, paskalku initiativa. Ishodasa ot zenzani. Protivorisit traditionoj roli mus sini kak ladera I zasitnika v sim. V sluci. Esli devushka vis taki resitsa delit pervij sag I predlozit svoimu izbraniku brak. Etu mozit stat predmetum obsuzdnij I days kritiki. Zatrajavane tolko e lichnu reputatia. No I sest viseji semi. V culture Caucasa reputatia. Etu glabne capital. Paradavemai is Pokolini v Pokolini. Poetomu lubo povedeni. Stavasi pod ugrozu a. Capital. Citatsa tabu I strogo osusdatsa. Oso beno strogi pravila destvut v otnosni nochevki vn doma. Kotora citatsa sereznim nerusenium kulturnai norm. Zensinum zadiz zaprisatsa ostavatsa nochevat vn doma bez uvazatelnoj I odebrenoj samej prisini. Paskalku etu napramus vizano s ponitium sesti. Igrausim kluchevu rol v senasta regiona. Vospriati nochevki vn samejnogo nezda zakastu oprideletsa kak proavleni napriliknogo povedinia ili nedostojnoj postupki. Cto mozit navlik na zensinu I simu sereznu porchu osusdinia. V traditioni Caucaska sema nochevka vn doma vosprinimejtsa kak priznak utradi kontrola so storani semi. Cto citatsa nedopustimum I days opasnim. Etu ne tolko vopros likni udobstivi ili zilanij zenzani. No I otrazeni bole gluboki socialni ustanovak, kotori nevosmos no ignoriravat tem. Ketu stremitsa sorinit uvezani k nacionalnim traditium. Krom togo, zensinum na Caucas kran nezaladalno nozit odezdu. Kotora citatsa otkrovenoj ili nepodobosej s totski zarenia traditionoj skromnosti. Takij vinanij vid. Viklukasij karatki ubki. Otkritate plesi. Gluboki virezi ili oblegausi naradi. Zakastu vosprinimejtsa kak vizov obsistvenum ustoem. V glaza mestni zeitlej podobna odezda mozit stat povodum dla osusdinia kak so storani musin. Tak I zensin. Paskalku odezda citatsa symbolum skromnosti. Dostoinstva I uvazenia k seba I okrazausim. Neruseni etigo pravila vosprinimejtsa kak proavleni leg komislenosti ili days nuvazenia k traditium. V obsetsve suzestivu et ubestini, cto vinanij oblik zenzani napramu otrazat e sest I dostoinstvo. Ataxi sest visej e semi I okrazenia. Poetomu lubij vizivasij ili kresmerno otkrovenij narad vosprinimejtsa kak zanak na primlimogo povedinia ili days namerania privlik kresmernoi venimani. Dla konservativni samej podobno vigladat kak serezno neruseni I mozit stat prisinoj serezni sur ili konfliktov. Interesno otmetit, cto days dla turistic ili pritsi zensen rekomenduetsa priderzavatsa skromnago stila odezdi. Citavi izbezet osusdosi vizgladov. Nelovka situatij I nepriatne komentariev. V traditionum obsetsve Caucasa sobludini eti pravil citatsa proavlinium uvazenia k culture. Obikam I qvistvam mestni zeitlej. Odezda I vinanij vid na Caucas sluzit odnim is sami zamani markarov uvazenia I loalnosti k kulturnim senastam regiona. Kategoricheski zaprisatsa zensin ostavatsa nadine s mushinoj, kotorij ne avlatsa e rodstvenikam ili zakonum suprugam, etu tabus vizano s glubocum uvazanium k sesti zenzani I semi. A taxi s opasanium, cto days pre otsitstvi romantiski ili intimni otnosnej nahozdani v takij situasi mozit stat povodum dla slav I osusdinia. Podobno povedeni spozobno brosit ten na reputatia zenzani I visej semi. Cto v traditionum obsetsve citatsa nedopustimum I opasnim dla dalnej sej sudbi. Women, as perceived by those around them, often find their behavior misunderstood, even when their actions are entirely innocent or spontaneous. For instance, a casual date, a joint trip, or a work meeting held in a private setting can be misinterpreted as inappropriate or morally questionable. Such misunderstandings are not uncommon and can lead to serious social repercussions. Men, too, face risks. They might be accused of inappropriate conduct or of failing to show proper respect towards women. These accusations and perceptions place both parties in a difficult position, often before society as a whole. This societal attitude is so deeply ingrained that it can be considered taboo, especially within traditional communities, where there's a strong tendency to avoid any situations, even those that are merely hinted at, that could cast doubt on a woman's integrity. Usually, it is the relatives who vigilantly oversee such matters, ensuring that no incidents occur that could tarnish the family's honor. In these communities, the concept of family honor is held as the highest value, more important than individual freedom or personal expression. On the Caucasus, for example, this sense of honor is so paramount that there are no other family members who might overlook or dismiss such concerns, even if the man involved is merely a friend or a colleague. Any action perceived as inappropriate, such as visiting a woman's home without the presence or approval of senior family members, is considered a grave breach of social norms. Such behavior is seen as a serious violation of decency and can arouse suspicion, casting a shadow over the woman's reputation. Even if she is confident in her intentions and aware that the invitation was innocent, society often interprets such visits differently. Neighbors, relatives, or acquaintances might perceive these visits as signs of close or hidden relationships, which, in traditional Caucasian culture, are deemed unacceptable for a woman. These perceptions can lead to significant problems, as such visits might be viewed as disrespectful to the family's reputation. On the Caucasus, issues of honor are handled with utmost seriousness, sometimes escalating into open conflicts. The deeper-rooted nature of these taboos reflects the region's strict adherence to traditional values, where community expectations often outweigh personal desires. For women in this culture, it is considered unacceptable to openly laugh loudly or behave emotionally in public. Such behaviors are viewed as violations of the ideals of modesty and dignity that have been shaped over centuries, forming the image of the perfect Caucasian woman. A loud laugh or excessive emotional expression can be seen as a sign of frivolity or disrespect towards those around her. In traditional societies, restraint and composure are highly valued, and women are expected to conduct themselves quietly, modestly, and gracefully. Especially in the presence of men or elders, any deviation from these behavioral standards can become a subject of criticism. People may begin to scrutinize her upbringing and reputation, making judgments about her character and manners. Often, this kind of critique does not remain confined to the individual alone. It extends to her family, which can also become the subject of gossip and judgment. Such taboos are particularly acute in small communities, where everyone knows each other well, and any unusual or unconventional behavior quickly turns into a topic of conversation. On the Caucasus, a woman's loud laughter is not merely seen as a sign of happiness. It is perceived as a breach of the unspoken social code that governs her role within the community. This code regulates her conduct and expectations, emphasizing modesty, restraint, and propriety as essential qualities for women. The social fabric of the region is woven with these unwritten rules, and deviation from them often carries significant consequences. For women living in these traditional societies, adhering to these norms is not just a matter of personal choice but a vital aspect of maintaining family honor and social acceptance. On the Caucasus, there exists a deeply ingrained cultural taboo that prohibits women from consuming alcohol in public spaces or even in the presence of strangers. This prohibition is not merely a rule but a reflection of broader societal values rooted in notions of modesty, dignity, and respect for long-standing traditions. Women who violate this unspoken code risk facing severe disapproval from their community, as such behavior is seen as a serious breach of social norms. The consumption of alcohol by women in this region is generally regarded as inappropriate, especially when it occurs outside the confines of the home or in company with unfamiliar individuals. Such conduct can be interpreted by others as a sign of frivolousness or, in some cases, as outright impropriety. In this cultural context, women are expected to exhibit restraint and to avoid any actions that might damage their reputation or the honor of their family. Even within familial circles, the act of drinking alcohol is often reduced to a symbolic gesture, such as sipping a glass of wine during a celebration, rather than a casual or frequent occurrence. When women do partake, it is typically kept discreet and private, and especially discouraged in the presence of men who are not part of their immediate family. Openly drinking alcohol in public is considered unacceptable and can become a source of concern or shame for the family, since a woman's reputation is seen as a reflection of her entire family's honor. Any suspicion of inappropriate behavior, including alcohol consumption, can ignite serious conflicts and damage social standing. Within this cultural framework, alcohol for women assumes a significance far beyond its basic nature as a beverage. it becomes a potent symbol intertwined with societal perceptions of morality and respectability. On the Caucasus, women are generally discouraged from openly discussing their feelings or emotions in public, diverging sharply from Western traditions where emotional expression is often accepted as normal. Instead, women are expected to maintain composure and self-control at all times, as this restraint is regarded as a mark of dignity and proper conduct. Expressing personal feelings, especially negative ones such as anger or frustration, is viewed as a taboo, an act that could undermine a woman's reputation and social standing. This cultural stance is rooted in the belief that women should remain calm, composed, and unflappable regardless of their circumstances. The notion is that showing vulnerability or emotional distress in public is inappropriate, even if a woman is experiencing hardship or personal struggles. Consequently, women are often compelled to hide their emotions, keeping their pain, anger, or anxiety private, particularly in the presence of men or senior family members. Demonstrating emotion publicly, whether it be tears, anger, or even joy, can attract judgment and social disapproval, as it might be perceived as a lack of self-control or a sign of weakness. Such perceptions not only threaten a woman's personal dignity but also influence her overall reputation, since society expects women to exemplify restraint and self-possession at all times. The pressure to conceal true feelings exerts a considerable psychological toll on women, creating an environment where emotional privacy is prioritized over openness. This cultural expectation leads to a life where women often suppress their inner experiences, even in the most challenging moments, because they are not permitted to share their suffering or distress openly. Even close friends and family members are often kept at a distance when it comes to personal emotional struggles, fostering a sense of isolation. The societal norm discourages women from publicly displaying emotions such as sorrow, anger, or happiness, as such displays are seen as signs of emotional instability or disrespect for tradition. Furthermore, on the Caucasian side of the region, women are generally discouraged from participating in vigorous physical activities or sports that emphasize strength, agility, or physical prowess. This prohibition is tied to traditional views on the role of women in society, which prioritize modesty, humility, and a physically gentle demeanor. Women's physical activities are thus limited predominantly to household chores or activities deemed appropriate within the domestic sphere. The prevailing belief is that a woman's physical strength or skill in sports might be interpreted as a challenge to traditional gender roles or as a sign of independence that could undermine her modest image. As a result, any active participation in sports or physically demanding pursuits is considered inappropriate and is strongly discouraged, reinforcing the idea that women should be reserved, modest, and physically unobtrusive. In sum, the cultural norms and taboos of the Caucasus region profoundly influence women's behavior and societal roles. These unspoken rules serve to uphold a specific vision of femininity that emphasizes restraint, modesty, and emotional control. They shape women's lives in ways that often require them to conceal their true feelings and physical capabilities, fostering an environment of limited openness and heightened social expectations. These lasting traditions continue to define the boundaries of acceptable conduct for women, shaping their identities and their interactions within their communities. In many traditional societies, certain activities that do not attract the attention of the surrounding people, such as individual exercises, participation in sports games, or involvement in public competitions, are often perceived as incompatible with femininity. Women who actively engage in sports are sometimes subjected to criticism and social censure because their behavior may be interpreted as an attempt to challenge or break away from the conventional boundaries of gender roles. Such perceptions are deeply rooted in societal taboos, which are reinforced by the prevailing cultural norms that delineate clear distinctions between what is considered appropriate for men and women. In many communities, there exists a strong and rigid division. Men are expected to occupy the spaces of stadiums and sports halls, where their physical prowess and competitive spirit are celebrated and accepted. Conversely, women are traditionally expected to dedicate themselves to household duties, family life, and maintaining the comfort and harmony of their homes. This division extends beyond mere social expectations. It influences women's choices regarding their lifestyles and careers. For instance, engaging in fitness routines, yoga, or other forms of physical activity in public places can sometimes provoke disapproval if such actions are seen as contradicting the traditional perception of a woman's role within society. This restrictive attitude significantly impacts women's opportunities and freedom to make personal life choices, including their careers and personal development. On the Caucasus, for example, a belief persists that physical weakness in women symbolizes their dignity and femininity. Thus, any deviation from this ideal, such as participating in vigorous sports or physical activities, is viewed as inappropriate or even unacceptable by a segment of society. This cultural stance effectively closes the door on many sports and physical pursuits for women, reinforcing the idea that femininity should be expressed through modesty and delicacy rather than strength or athleticism. Furthermore, societal norms on the Caucasus strictly prohibit public displays of affection between couples. Such displays, holding hands, hugging, or kissing in public, are considered taboo and are generally frowned upon. For many people in the region, these gestures are seen as acts of shamelessness and disrespect toward traditional values and social decorum. Public demonstrations of emotional intimacy between men and women are viewed as violations of the accepted moral code, which emphasizes modesty and reserved behavior. In this cultural context, relationships between spouses are kept private, and any attempt to violate this norm by making such gestures openly can lead to social condemnation. The repercussions may include damage to personal reputation and social standing, as well as strained relations within the community. This taboo extends not only to married couples but also to young, unmarried individuals. Lovers often feel compelled to conceal their feelings and expressions of affection because such displays could invite criticism or disapproval from elders, neighbors, and even close relatives. This is particularly evident in small villages or rural communities, where everyone's lives are closely intertwined and privacy is limited. Public acts of love or emotional attachment can cause conflicts within families and lead to social tensions, which might have serious consequences for the relationship and the individual's reputation. In addition to these restrictions on romantic expressions, women in the Caucasus are generally forbidden from participating in public discussions or political debates. This taboo is linked to traditional views that assign women a subordinate role in society. Women are expected to adhere to modesty and silence, refraining from intervening in matters that are considered the domain of men. It is widely believed that women should not publicly express their political opinions or engage in debates, as doing so is seen as a violation of their prescribed roles within the family and community. Such actions could be perceived as an attempt to challenge the established social order and undermine traditional gender boundaries. The prevailing opinion in many regions is that women's involvement in politics or public discourse is inappropriate and disruptive. It is assumed that women should focus on their domestic responsibilities, raising children, managing household chores, and supporting their husbands, rather than seeking a voice in public affairs. This conservative outlook maintains that women's primary contribution should be confined to the private sphere, and any deviation from this norm is viewed with suspicion and disapproval. These cultural constraints serve to reinforce the traditional division of roles, limiting women's opportunities to participate fully in social, political, or public life, and perpetuating a societal structure where their influence remains confined within the home and family. In summary, traditional societal norms on the Caucasus impose significant restrictions on women's behavior and participation in public life. From discouraging active involvement in sports and physical activities to prohibiting public displays of affection and political engagement, these taboos serve to uphold a conservative view of gender roles. Such cultural expectations continue to shape women's choices and opportunities, often limiting their personal freedoms and reinforcing societal stability through the preservation of long-standing customs and norms. In many regions of the Caucasus, the societal expectations and deeply rooted cultural norms create a landscape where women are often discouraged from voicing their opinions on social or political issues, especially when it comes to supporting their husbands or participating in public debates. Such discussions are widely regarded as too complex, too controversial, and fundamentally inappropriate for women, which leads to the perception that their involvement in these matters could be socially unacceptable or even shameful. This perception is especially strong in small, close-knit communities where traditions and collective norms exert strict control over individual behavior, ensuring that everyone conforms to established standards. In these tight-knit communities, the collective consciousness often suppresses personal opinions, particularly those of women, forcing them to remain silent or to express their viewpoints only in private, away from the public eye. Even in larger cities, where social norms might be somewhat more relaxed, women who do dare to express their political or social beliefs often find themselves facing significant challenges. Such women frequently encounter disapproval or criticism from local residents, who may view their outspoken opinions as a breach of societal expectations. This disapproval can have serious repercussions for their reputation and social standing, potentially straining relationships with family members and community acquaintances. For many women, the risk of social ostracism or familial disapproval acts as a powerful deterrent against engaging in public political discourse, effectively rendering such participation taboo. In the Caucasus, the role of women in public life is heavily restricted by these traditional taboos, which also extend to travel. Women are generally discouraged from undertaking solitary journeys, especially long-distance trips or travel outside their native region. Such restrictions are rooted in the belief that women should remain within the protective boundaries of their family or community, and that traveling without male accompaniment could be viewed as a sign of independence or defiance of social norms. Women are advised to travel only when accompanied by relatives or their husbands, as traveling alone or unaccompanied might raise suspicion or provoke criticism from the community. This belief is based on the conviction that women's mobility outside the family sphere could expose them to risks or temptations deemed incompatible with traditional values. The societal perception is that women traveling without male accompaniment might be attempting to conceal their true intentions or behaving in ways that breach established moral standards. Such behavior, according to traditional views, could jeopardize a woman's reputation, potentially leading to accusations of inappropriate conduct or even violations of strict social customs. These rules become even more pronounced in small settlements, where the community's surveillance is more intense, and individual actions are closely monitored. Travel without a chaperone in such contexts is seen not merely as an act of independence but as a symbol of dissent against traditional norms, a challenge to the collective harmony that underpins community life. For many women, these restrictions make travel without accompaniment virtually impossible, as the risk of social condemnation and damage to personal and family honor is too great to ignore. Furthermore, the social fabric of the Caucasus includes a pronounced taboo against women working in professions traditionally regarded as masculine. Fields such as construction, mechanics, engineering, and high-ranking positions in business or politics are viewed as unsuitable for women, and their participation in such areas often provokes disapproval from the local community. Women engaged in physically demanding or intellectually challenging jobs that are typically associated with men risk being labeled as inappropriate or as violating gender roles. The prevailing belief is that a woman's proper place is within the household, where she should focus on caring for her family, preparing meals, and raising children. This deeply ingrained attitude results in a strong societal bias against women pursuing careers in traditionally male-dominated fields. Such careers are perceived not only as a deviation from accepted norms but also as a threat to the moral fabric and traditional values of society. Women who challenge these norms may face open criticism, social exclusion, or even ostracism, especially in rural areas where traditions tend to be more rigid and less susceptible to change. In these communities, the idea that a woman working in a male-dominated profession undermines the very foundations of social order is widely accepted. Consequently, women who choose to pursue such careers often find themselves subject to judgment and suspicion, and their professional pursuits are seen as a challenge to the established social hierarchy. This entrenched mindset underscores the societal belief that a woman's primary role is to serve her family and uphold traditional values. Any deviation from this prescribed role is regarded as a threat to social stability, and women who refuse to conform to these expectations often become targets of criticism and social censure. This phenomenon is particularly pronounced in rural areas, where the continuity of traditional customs remains strong, and any woman working outside the confines of conventional roles can become a focal point of community scrutiny. As a result, many women face significant barriers to participating in public life or pursuing careers in fields deemed inappropriate, effectively reinforcing the traditional gender roles that have persisted for generations. Na Caucasus rol zenzani v obsetstve opredeletsa množstvom traditiony norm I kulturni senosti, kotori zakastu okazivat zanachitelnu vliani na I zizan I vibori. V ramka adago obsetva reputatia zenzani osan vazna. I lubi I destvia mogat vospranamatsa kak popika nerusit garmoniu I balance. Suzistvuzi v traditionoj samejnoj struktor. V Gorodska Uslevia situatia s edim mini zestka, odnako I tam zenzani. Rabitausi v opredeleni sfera. Stakivayutsa s mnogosislenimi predivzatimi neniami I stereotipami. Cto suzistvano ogranisavat I vozmiznosti I svobodu vibora. Zensinum, stremisimsa k korernomu rostu ili zilazim rabitat via blasta, kotori traditiono sitayutsa muskimi. Prohoditsa priodaliovat množstvo kulturni I socialni pripastvi. Eti beri zakastu vystupout na puti I professionalnogo razvisha. Sazdava dopolnitelni slaznosti dla te. Katu hoset realizavat svoj ambici. V obsetsve Caucasa suzistiviuet osobo tabu na zensin. Kotori riso razvestis. Etu citatsa ne tolko pozorum dla samoj zenzani. No I dla visej I semi. Paskalku razvad vospranimatsa kak zanak lichnij nudachi I slabasti. A taxi nerusenium ustanovleni norm. V bolsintsve slukayev obsetstvo rasmatravat simu kak svisenuu asejku. Asoraneni braka, kak dolg I obazanost kazdaj zenzani. Days esli otnosinia venutri nego stali toksignimi ili days nasilstvenimi. Traditioni senosti trebud. Citabi zensina ostavalis v break nesmotra na lichnu nudavlet verenost ili sereznie trudnosti. Voznikausi v samejnoj zizni. V taki obstoitilstva razvad stanovitsa vosprinimemim kak sag. Spozobnij razrusit reputation ne tolko samoj zenzani. No I blizka. Zensina, prinavsa reseni o razvod. Stokivatsa s obvineniami v neruseni sveseni obazitelstvi I razrive socialni ustoev. Etu sozdat dla ne ogromno devleni I zakastu vizivat osusini. Cto ona svazana samejnimi obazanostami I traditiami. Days esli I otnosinia s suprugum stali toksignimi ili nasilstvenimi. Strobit osus denoj obsetsvam I poterit reputation mozit nastolko silnim. Cto mnogi zenzani predposito ostavatsa v break. Nesmotra na likni stradania. V nekotori sluka zensina. Resivsaza na razvad. Lisatsa poterski blizka I stokivatsa s socialnoj izolasiej. Atot faktoso beno ostro osusatsa v nabasa nasaleni punkta. Gidi sluhi rasprostranatsa bistro. A reputatia stanovitsa vosnasim aspektom zizni. V taki Uslevia zensinum prohoditsa nasanat vis zanovo, kasto stokavos s neponimonium I osuzdnium okruzausi. Etu mozit imet osin tazli posledstvia, ved v malenka subshistva neni obsetva o zensin mozit opredelat I dalnejsu sudbi I vozmiznosti. Cto kasatsa vaprosa abortov, to na Caucasus atot vopros saprovizdatsa množstvom zapritov I tabu. V regiona dostup k medicinskim procedurum po pririveniu baramenasti vis sa ogranisan. I sama procedura zakastu citatsa gem to amoralnim, naprimlimim s totski zarenia traditioni senoste. Zensina, resivza prervit baramenast. Riskuet stolnutsa s osuzdnium kak so storani obsetva. Tak I so storani svoje semi. V culture Caucasa suzistiviuet poneti svatosti semi prodolzenia roda. Cto citatsa vise obazanostu kazdaj zenzani. V atom contexte praravani baramenasti citatsa nerusenium eti sveseni norm I senoste. Abort vospranimatsa ne tolko kak moralno neruseni, no I kak postupak, spozobnij negativno skazatsa na reputasi visej semi. Zensina, kotora pribigaet k atoi procedure. Kasto stanovitsa obektom obsuzdnij I obvinenij. E mogat uprinut v nedostatki uvazenia k traditium I senostam. V slabasti haraktera ili v odsitstvi odvetstvenosti. Eti gluboki kulturnie korni mogat pravesti k razrivu otnoznij s rodstvenikami. Oso beno esli abort bil delen bez soglasia ili days bez vido mamuza. Obsistveno devleni nastolko silno, sitio mnogi zenzani. Okazasiesa v slaznoj situaci. Predposito skrivat svoj destvia ili iskat nelegalnie sposobi resenia problemi. Risku stolnutsa s sereznimi posledstiviami. Krom togo, na Caucasus suzastiviuet minozestvo samej. V kotori zensinum navizivatsa strogi pravila I ograniczenia. Zakastu kasasiesa I povedinia, svobodi I prav. Et p ograniczenia mogat zanachitelno ogranikovat vozmiznosti zensin. Sozdava dopolnitelni trudnosti v zizni I pripatsvua razvidiu ličnostnogo potenciala. V selim, kultura regiona nakladavat na zensin minozestvo zestka ramuk. V kotori oni dolzni nahoditsa. Sitabi soranitsvu reputatia I uvezani v obsetsve. Many women in the Caucasus region feel a deep-seated obligation to adhere strictly to traditional customs and social expectations, often regardless of their personal circumstances or desires. These ingrained cultural norms act as powerful taboos that significantly restrict their personal freedom, especially when it comes to making autonomous decisions about their own bodies and lives. For example, the taboo surrounding abortion is particularly restrictive. It limits women's ability to exercise control over their reproductive choices, thereby impinging on their fundamental right to decide what happens with their bodies. Such restrictions can have profound and long-lasting consequences, not only affecting their physical health but also impacting their mental and emotional well-being over the years, as women are often forced into difficult decisions without adequate support or understanding. On the Caucasian social landscape, there exists a deeply rooted taboo concerning women who openly express their sexuality or engage in romantic relationships before marriage. This prohibition stems from a profound respect for traditional family values, which prioritize female modesty and chastity. In these communities, any sexual activity outside the bonds of marriage is viewed as a serious violation of societal order and moral standards. Women who deviate from these expectations risk facing harsh social consequences, including public condemnation, disgrace, or even exile from their communities. The concept of family honor is intricately linked to the behavior of women. Thus, any perceived breach of moral conduct can threaten not only individual reputation but also the collective dignity of their families. Women who choose to express their sexual independence and freedom often become targets of ridicule, shame, and harsh criticism from both peers and elders. Such expressions of sexuality are perceived as threats to the established social fabric and traditional moral values that have been upheld for generations. Simply discussing sexual matters openly or displaying any signs of sexual expression can provoke widespread disapproval, as these actions are deemed inappropriate and indecent for women within the cultural context of the Caucasus. Consequently, women frequently face intense supervision and control from family members, especially elder relatives, who expect their female relatives to conform strictly to prescribed norms of modesty and obedience. This pervasive societal pressure can be so overwhelming that women who violate these norms may be compelled to marry the person they have had a relationship with, in an attempt to restore family honor and reputation. Such pressures often lead to personal and familial conflicts, fostering feelings of fear, shame, and helplessness. The societal environment thus becomes a restrictive space where women find themselves unable to freely express their sexuality or discuss intimate matters openly. This taboo effectively curtails their ability to make independent choices regarding their personal lives and bodies, creating a social milieu in which their autonomy is severely limited. Furthermore, the taboo extends beyond issues of sexuality and reproduction to encompass women's professional aspirations, particularly in careers associated with public recognition. Women who seek to build careers in fields such as acting, singing, or any form of public life often encounter significant resistance. These professions are traditionally considered unsuitable for women because they involve stepping outside the private sphere and attracting public attention. Women striving for success in these areas can face immense societal pressure and condemnation, rooted in the belief that a woman's rightful place is within the confines of her home and family responsibilities. Such attitudes are more pronounced in small towns and rural villages, where personal lives are scrutinized intensely, and community opinions strongly influence individual choices. Women who decide to dedicate themselves to careers in the arts or public domains risk being labeled as inappropriate or morally questionable, especially if their lives or appearances deviate from conservative standards. Their reputation often becomes the subject of gossip and judgment, and their actions may be perceived as an assault on traditional family values and societal morals. The social environment, therefore, tends to stigmatize women who pursue fame or public recognition, viewing their ambitions as a challenge to the established social order. This cultural climate enforces strict standards of modesty, requiring women to maintain a humble appearance and behavior that does not draw undue attention, whether through their dress, speech, or public appearances. In the media and at social gatherings, women are expected to conform to a defined image of modesty and decorum, ensuring that their external presentation aligns with traditional expectations. Any deviation from these standards, such as participating in public events, wearing fashionable or revealing clothing, or engaging in activities that showcase their talents, may lead to social ostracism or moral condemnation. This pervasive sense of societal surveillance and the deeply ingrained taboos serve to reinforce a restrictive environment, where women's aspirations and expressions are curtailed by the weight of conservative cultural norms and the desire to uphold family and community honor. In many traditional societies, particularly within the cultural landscape of the Caucasus, there exists a pervasive set of social taboos that profoundly influence women's lives and restrict their personal freedoms. These taboos are deeply rooted in long-standing customs and societal norms that have been passed down through generations, shaping perceptions of appropriate behavior and defining the boundaries of acceptable conduct for women. For instance, women who seek public recognition or aspire to prominence in the public sphere often face significant social disapproval, which can lead not only to a loss of respect from the broader community but also to strained relations within their own families. This disapproval stems from the belief that such ambitions are incompatible with traditional values, which view a woman's primary role as centered around family and domestic responsibilities. Consequently, women who publicly pursue careers or social prominence risk being perceived as betraying cultural expectations, effectively making their aspirations a taboo that limits their opportunities for self-expression and professional advancement. Within the Caucasus, many young women harbor dreams of performing on stage, engaging in artistic pursuits, or becoming recognized figures in society. However, these aspirations often remain hidden or suppressed due to the fear of societal backlash. The social environment here tends to prioritize conformity to established norms, and any deviation, such as openly expressing ambitions, can attract harsh judgments. For many women, pursuing a career or public life is not merely a personal choice but a challenge to the collective values upheld by their community. The potential repercussions are not limited to social stigma but can extend to personal and familial consequences, including damage to reputation and even emotional estrangement from relatives who see such pursuits as a betrayal of tradition. Another significant taboo concerns the living arrangements of women after marriage. Traditionally, it is believed that a woman should reside either in her husband's household or maintain close ties with her husband's relatives. This expectation is rooted in ancient Caucasian customs that emphasize the importance of familial unity and collective support. The notion of a woman choosing to live separately from her husband's family, perhaps to establish her own household, is often viewed as a violation of these customs. Such an act is perceived as disruptive to the established family order and is considered a breach of the social fabric that binds relatives together. These traditional beliefs hold that a woman's place is within the extended family unit, where she can be supported and monitored, and her independence in living arrangements is seen as a challenge to social stability. This tradition is based on the idea that the relationship between spouses must be closely intertwined with the wider family network, which provides assistance, guidance, and social cohesion. Respect for elders and adherence to family hierarchy are regarded as paramount, and women who decide to break away from this pattern often face social sanctions. In many households, women who attempt to live independently are either explicitly forbidden from doing so or are subtly pressured to conform to the existing norms. Such restrictions serve to uphold the perceived sanctity of kinship ties, but they also limit women's autonomy and personal space. Women who choose to challenge these conventions risk being ostracized, losing family support, or facing emotional and social pressure to conform to traditional roles. Furthermore, the societal expectations extend into the realm of women's economic independence and professional success. Women who openly demonstrate financial independence or achieve success in business are often viewed with suspicion and disapproval. These attitudes are rooted in the traditional perception that a woman's primary role is within the domestic sphere, caring for the home and raising children, rather than pursuing a career or managing her own financial affairs. When a woman becomes a breadwinner or attains recognition in her professional field, it can be perceived as a threat to the established gender roles and the social order. Such achievements may evoke envy or resentment among peers and relatives, who see them as deviations from the accepted norms. In some cases, women who succeed professionally find themselves marginalized or isolated. Their accomplishments may be interpreted as a challenge to the traditional hierarchy, leading to social tensions within the family and community. Relatives may feel uncomfortable or even embarrassed by a woman's success, especially if it contradicts the expected gender roles. These societal pressures serve to discourage women from pursuing ambitions that fall outside the conventional boundaries, effectively reinforcing the existing social structure. As a result, many women find themselves in a difficult position, either suppressing their ambitions to maintain family harmony or risking rejection and disapproval by asserting their independence. Overall, these deep-seated taboos create a complex web of social expectations that significantly constrain women's lives. Their freedom to choose their paths, whether in education, career, or personal circumstances, is often limited by the fear of social ostracism and the desire to conform to traditional standards. The collective emphasis on maintaining social harmony and respecting hierarchy can, unfortunately, suppress individual aspirations and reinforce gender inequalities. Women who challenge these norms do so at great personal risk, often facing emotional, social, and familial repercussions that serve to uphold the long-standing customs of the region. Women on the Caucasus face a profound and pervasive set of societal restrictions that significantly limit their opportunities for personal and professional growth. These restrictions, deeply rooted in traditional values and cultural norms, often compel women to hide their achievements and downplay their ambitions, creating an environment where expressing individual success is considered inappropriate or even taboo. Such social pressures act as formidable barriers on the path toward financial independence and self-realization, forcing many women to conform to societal expectations even when these expectations starkly contrast with their personal aspirations and career goals. This phenomenon is not isolated but part of a broader cultural framework that influences attitudes towards gender roles, relationships, and personal ambitions. In this context, women frequently find themselves caught between their desire to succeed and the obligation to adhere to conservative norms that dictate modesty, submission, and conformity. The result is a climate where open acknowledgement of one's accomplishments is discouraged, and the pursuit of personal goals can be met with social disapproval or criticism. In our discussion, we have explored some of the most significant taboos present in the Caucasus region concerning relationships, sexuality, and traditional norms. These taboos form a complex web of unwritten rules that shape individual behavior and societal expectations. However, what has been shared so far is only the beginning. The next segment of our series will delve even deeper into this topic, revealing additional taboos that may come as a shock to many. These undisclosed restrictions continue to influence the daily lives of women and men alike, often reinforcing stereotypes and limiting personal freedom. To stay informed and not miss the continuation of this compelling exploration into cultural taboos, it is advisable to follow our updates and insights. Additionally, we invite you to join our Telegram channel, where further discussions and details will be shared, link to which will be provided in the description. Your engagement is highly valued. Your subscriptions and comments play a crucial role in supporting this ongoing dialogue. We encourage you to share your opinions, reflect on the topics discussed, and pass this information along to friends and family, as understanding these cultural intricacies is essential for fostering awareness and change.